Hey everybody, welcome back to my shop. I figured this week we'd do a real simple skill builder project with this set of 8 napkin rings. Now this is the first time I've actually turned napkin rings, so you know it's not going to go perfectly smoothly. But please remember, this is not an instructional video and is for entertainment purposes only, and your safety is your responsibility. So let's get started. We're just starting out with a piece of American Elm between centers. I'm just roughing it out with my roughing gouge, and then I'm going to form a tenant on one side so that we'll hold it in the chuck. I'm also setting the overall diameter of the cylinder to about 2 inches. Next, we're going to use a set of dividers to mark off each ring, leaving enough room in between for parting cuts. I'm going to use my parting tool to part down between the rings, down to just under 1.25 inches, checking with my calipers as I go. The reason for just under 1.25 inches is because that's the size of drill bit we're going to use to drill these things out with after. I'm going to speed back up to about 1600 RPM. Now I, like many modern woodturners, probably need to practice up on my skew skills a bit. So I've got 8 napkin rings here to practice on, and if I come out with 6 in the end, I'm going to be happy. But if you want to see somebody who's really good with the skew, please on YouTube check out Woodturner21, and he goes by Steve the Woodturner on Instagram. He is a master woodturner, and what this guy can do with a skew chisel, you won't see anywhere else. So please, check him out. Okay, let's see what I can come up with here. Wish me luck. You might have noticed I'm getting a little bit of vibration. It's possible that the deep parting cuts I made between the rings has removed a little bit too much of the mass and structure of the spindle. Also, I use my skew chisel straight off my 180 grit CBN grinding wheel, and I don't do any additional honing, so it's possible that my tool isn't sharp enough. It's also possible that the person operating the tool isn't sharp enough. I'm just cleaning up the very sides of the ring, so there won't be much sanding to do later. Well, for how much I use the skew chisel, I'm fairly happy with this. I do so much more work with bowls and things that require gouges that, the skew becomes quite foreign to me quite easily. But all the rings came out fairly symmetrical. I probably should have done a little bit more practice before I took on this project and maybe chose a timber that didn't have such interlocking grain, as it felt like it was fighting the tool a little bit. But you know what? That's what this project's all about. It's a great skill builder. I'm going to sand these rings with 150, 220, 320, and 400 grit sandpaper. I'm taking a little extra time with the 150 grit sandpaper to refine the shape. If my skew skills weren't so rusty, I could have started at 220 grit. And that's the funny thing about wood turning. You can go and plow through hundreds of bowls and feel like you're on top of the world. And then you decide one day you pick up the simplest wood turning tool there is, the skew, and go and make some napkin rings, and you become humbled pretty quickly. Now these rings are looking a little bit plain, so we're going to add something to them. Something to give them a little pizzazz, to kick it up a notch. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Fire the lathe back up. About 1800 RPM. Now we're going to form 3 little grooves. One in the center, one off the center on one side, and one on the other. Now we're going to take a copper wire between two vice grips. We're not holding it in our hands, and we're not going to wrap it around the piece. We're going to hold tension on the wire the entire time. Oh, a little hot for that wire. So I got a new piece of wire. Turn the lathe speed down to about 14, and we're going to use a little less pressure, and hopefully it doesn't overheat that wire and make it separate on us. We want to get it till it starts to smoke. Take your time. You want nice, crisp, dark burns. So try not to burn the sides too much. There. There may not be an open flame with this type of burnt embellishment, but it's always good to take extra safety precautions. Clean up your wood shavings, and if you haven't got one already, I suggest you get yourself a small fire extinguisher. For the price, they're really worth it. I've got one myself just at the door of my shop. Now that all the burning is complete, I'm just going to apply a mineral oil and beeswax finish to the rings. I'm going to apply it slowly at first, and then I'm going to bring the speed up to buff it into the wood. It's important that you generate some heat with the friction so that the oil and wax mixture will penetrate the wood thoroughly. See, here's a tip: if you can't get the wax out of the groove, just take that same wire you did the burning with, place it in the groove, and it'll pop all that wax right out for you. There, now we're ready to start parting these things off. Now this last step is where the magic really happens. And I've been wanting to try this since I first seen it demonstrated by Captain Eddie Castellan years ago in one of his videos. What's a Captain Eddie Castellan? Check him out on YouTube. You won't be disappointed. But if I've done everything correctly, we've sized these part downs, these little parted down areas, smaller than this 1¼ Forstner bit. So we're going to bring up the Forstner bit nice and gentle. I'm going about 500 RPM. Little bitty cuts. We don't want any heat build up. We have a bit of a wobble, but it won't really make a difference. It might be a little bit off-centered. There we go. It worked. Now we just got to try it 7 more times. It's going to leave a little bit of an edge there that we'll have to clean up, but we can do that with a jam chuck and some sandpaper. Now I've been having a hard time keeping this Forstner bit on track. It's been trying to wander off a little bit, and it leaves the ring a little bit off center. And I can't figure out what it really is. It might be the fact that the heartwood is very dense compared to the sapwood in this American Elm, so maybe that's what's causing it to wander off. But we'll try another one. It's getting closer to the chuck, so it should have more support. But let's try this one here. See, it's going more and more off course as it goes. Yeah, that's not bad, but that's a little bit. It's getting better as it gets closer to the chuck, but I'm gonna have to experiment a little bit more with this and maybe get back with another video in the future. I think I might have actually figured out the wandering drill bit problem already. I've been starting to make a jam chuck for the rings, and as I was cleaning up the face of this piece of wood, this is what's left over from all the rings, obviously. This piece right in the center, this area right here, is very soft and kind of punky. So I think what was happening is no matter how well I centered the drill bit and made a little starting point for it, it would still fall into that soft wood and wander off. So I'll have to do a little more experiment in the future and let you know what I've figured out. I just formed a small tenant on this waste block to be used as a jam chuck for our rings, so that we can clean up this inside rough edge here. So we're just going to start the lathe back up. Clean up that edge with a bit of 220. Move on to 320. Then take a little bit of beeswax and get that corner. Now we're going to stop the lathe. We didn't go too deep into that hole so that it's still going to fit tightly on the spigot. So we'll hit the other edge now. 220. This time we're going to reach inside a little bit. Get that edge nice and smooth. 320. Reach inside a little bit. Get our beeswax on that corner. Now we're going to reverse it one more time, just to get the very inside cleaned up. There. We just need to repeat that another 7 times and we have all our rings complete. Thanks for tuning into this week's video. Like usual, I'll leave some photos at the end showing the final product. If you liked the video, please click the like button and share it around. If you have any questions or suggestions for me, please fire those off in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'll have a new video out every Friday. So thank you very much and have yourself a great day.